What's going on, guys? Welcome to my channel, and I'm going to teach you how to install coilovers on your Acura Rsx and some things you'll be encountering that'll be really painful. So to start off, you'll be facing this. So what you want to do is you want to undo this control arm here, or the steering knuckle bolt, and this is it right here. Mine's a bit beat up because, well, I'll get into that in a little bit, but you're gonna have a 17mm bolt, and you want to use a socket, a 6-point socket for this head. Do not use a 12-point because that will strip the bolt, and these bolts are really tight on these camber end here and on the bottom strut, so you do not want to use 12-point sockets. You want to use a 6-point head. So you're gonna undo this bolt here, put it back right there. That'll relieve some tension on the suspension, so you can pull out the coilover that was there. And you're gonna need a long breaker bar. This right here is a really good one. It has enough leverage for you to put force on the bolt because they're gonna be really tight on there. For the RSXs, you do need to get this off. You need to take this bolt off, otherwise it'll be putting too much tension down there where the strut would be, and you're not going to get the bolt and you might strip it. So just keep that in mind. Right here, I got the car jacked up. You're going to want to max out your jacks like as much as you can to get enough room, because when you go down here to undo the bolt, that's going to be right here. That's another 17mm, and use a 6-point socket. Obviously, you're not going to have that much room for your breaker bar. As you can see, mine doesn't have that much room, but that's because it's on a lower jack setting. If you put it as much as you can, you'll get more. And you generally want to use a long, really long breaker bar so you can crack that nut loose, because that thing has been seized in there for quite some time, and God only knows how many foot-pounds you need to torque it down. So it took me quite a while. I even stripped the bolt, and that was a real pain in the ass. I'm gonna show you what I did. So let's say that you strip your bolt, the 17mm. What you want to do is get the Maddox universal locking lug nut set. This helps out a lot. It helps get out any stripped bolts that won't fit, and it has these teeth and grooves inside that'll hook onto the bolt when you turn, and it'll get it out. I kind of faced this problem myself, so I had to buy this at Harbor Freight for like 30 bucks. And this is what it looked like. This is after, when I was using the lug nut set. Grabbed on it pretty tight, but I stripped it and never used 12 points. Always use the 6-point socket, and yeah, using it got it out. So I recommend using this. This is for the 1/2-inch drive set socket, so 1/2 inch. Should be using a breaker bar to get these bolts out because they do get stuck. But yeah. Alright, let's say you're changing out the coilovers from your RSX. What I would do, if you got pretty bad coilovers like these Racelands, I don't really recommend buying them. Go for Tane or BC Racing. The spring is going to be under a lot of pressure. Right now it's not, obviously, but the springs were much more closed into each other, so you would not have enough space to use a spring compressor. So what you do is you undo the lower spring seat. This is the lower spring seat, and this is the lock seat. Usually these two will be together. What you do is you undo the lock seat here, and you spin it all the way down, and you bring the lower spring seat here down also. So there's going to be less pressure on the spring itself. So when you have the top hat on, you can undo the top lock nut, and it'll be much more easier for it to unscrew, and the spring won't pop out in your face. So that's just in case anyone has a spring that's compressed a lot, or these race lines, you want to undo the spring, the lock, lower the spring down so there's not enough tension, and when you do that, just undo the lock nut on top and you should be safe from the tension because there's not going to be any. And another thing is to look out for is sometimes when you got a blown strut, let's say your shock absorber is blown and it's leaking and you didn't change it for like a couple months to a year or two, what happens is you'll be able to push this piston rod down. You guys can't really tell, but if you're able to push this down, that's not good. It means you need to replace it. It's bad. And what tends to happen is the dust boot that's on it will push the weight of the car inside the top hat. So the dust boot, the plastic will be pushed, jammed inside this top hat right here, which it's not supposed to do. It's supposed to be covering this. And when that happens, it stays stuck and jammed inside of the top hat. So whenever you're using, let's say you install a new coilover, and it requires OEM top hats and dust boot and washers, so you'll see that this piece here was stuck inside the top hat, this rubber here, and what you need to do is you need to yank it out and you'll have all this space and room so you can fit the top rod inside. It should look like this for 05 and 06. I'm not too sure for 04, 03, and 02. But with me, I had to do this. I had to yank the plastic because it was jammed in there so much. I was wondering why the new ones wouldn't fit. So yeah, that was the reason why. And you should have this amount of space. And there should be also two washers, one for this piece and another for the collar. So yeah, I hope that helps anybody that faced that trouble or problem. And yeah. Alright guys, I'm under the car and installing my brand new coilovers. This is the Acura Rsx 06 base. And these are the Tane Street Bases Z coilovers where you have to reuse the OEM. And if you notice the bushings like this, you can see that they're kind of too big. So what I did is I used my jack stand here and I put a socket. You can use an oxygen socket too, and I lined it up. You have to bang it a bit to get it inside, but yeah, I pushed this piece in the lower part and I use this to push it up. So I just gotta bang it inside a little bit more and just raise the jack up and it'll push it by itself. This works if you're alone by yourself and you got no one else. And yeah, it works really great actually. Just make sure you're lining up the top part correctly with the top hat so you don't get any issues with threading or going through. So yeah, that's it. That's just a little tip for you guys if you're alone, if you have trouble pushing it in, just do this. It'll save you a lot of time and it'll help out a lot. So hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, take care.